Hello, my name is Edward Brown of the Courage Image and Charisma Institute, and I want to take a moment out of my hectic schedule and talk to you about what I have uncovered about success as relates to people's aspirations and dreams. And I think it's important to talk about that today because obviously we're experiencing a economic and financial meltdown, and people are asking themselves the big picture about life and what's important to them and how do you actually maneuver in this kind of conditions. And I had asked myself this 13 years ago when I was trying to determine what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. At the time, I was a City of Atlanta police officer, and after 8 years of policing the streets of Atlanta, I asked myself, what do I want to do the rest of my life? Do I want to chase bad guys for the rest of my life? And my response was, of course not. But what was my passion? I had been asking this question personally since I was 10 years old. And so as I grew and evolved, every year I felt a sense that I was growing closer and closer to the thing I want to spend my life doing. During the 1990s, there was a sense of happy days are here again. The Clinton administration was in the office at the time. We were making a lot of money. Og Mandino's work was prolific. Les Brown and Tony Robbins were making a lot of money as motivational speakers. Great times overall. So I said that if we ask one question, how do you succeed in Western culture and spend your life finding the answer, then you might be able to share that information with people because for the first time, the question will be answered in ways that you don't often find when you read average books. For example, Norman Vincent Peale in his book, Think and Grow Rich, talks about Mastermind Alliance groups, which I had joined once upon a time. He talks about reaffirmation of your goals and aspirations and having a picture in mind where you want to go, which I've always done. You do it through have pictures on your wall, or you have different things, mantras you say to yourself. And you also have people around you that share your aspirations and you reciprocate in sharing in their aspirations. So all these things were things we were doing who started out at that time to achieve our goals and aspirations. But here's the rub. No one was being successful. No one was getting that $35,000 gig for an hour conversation. People were writing books, but the books weren't selling. To this day, I'm sure there are people who bought 5,000 of their copies, books from the publisher, and it's still in their garage because they probably sold maybe 100 to their loved ones and friends. So the ideal that you could just build something and have a passion and aspiration was sufficient, to me, long term, is a farce. It's a dispelling of the myth, if I can, that is not true. That you have to really think out of the box. Now, I hate to use that cliche out of the box because a lot of people use it. But out of the box means, how do you think totally contrary to the conventional way of looking at life? Mainstream America's way of looking at life. Go to school, do the right things, go to networking opportunities, write books, write articles. All these things you have been taught that's great for you sometimes don't work. Sometimes they do work. You can look up. You can go to a networking function, meet one person, and that person transform and change your life. But for the most part, I found that wasn't my reality. So I was asking myself again, if all these things that myself and the people who started out with me in the human development field are doing isn't working, then what's the missing link? There are two things I've uncovered. One, when people are in power, those empowered individuals can serve as a conduit for success. For example, they have to anoint you in many instances. You have to be the person that they see some value in, or you have to add value to their lives in some tangible or intangible way that says, I'm going to introduce you to all my friends who have success and can take you where you want to go. That's one way. And that's a lot of times what we rely on as a conduit for our success when we go to these networking meetings and asking for people who made it to help us along the way. But the part that I found the second part I found that to me is the way that most people who have come from nothing, i.e. no education, no capital, no resources, no contacts, they have determined that if I'm going to do something, I've got to be a game changer. I've got to skew the realities of the world to my behest because I don't have those other things that the people who are in control or in power have. So I determined that the way you become successful is that you create your own power. Frederick Douglass said, power concedes in nothing but power. It never did, and it never will. And so You can't ask people who have power to give them some power, give you some power, because you think there's some synergistic value of them doing a good thing and a good deed, and as a result, they're going to feel good about helping you, and therefore we all build and grow in tandem. No. You have to come to the table with power on some level and some value to them before they want to interface with you in meeting instances. Now, obviously, these are not instant stone, but these are my experiences based on my evolution as well as the evolution of some people I've come in contact over the years. So how do you create your own power? You create your own power, and this is a beautiful place to be right now. The internet and multimedia has allowed the poor man and the rich man to be on the same level, the same playing field. So whether you have no money or all the money in the world, it makes no difference because now the playing field has been leveled through the internet. That's why the music industry, the public industry, and the entertainment industry is suffering because they don't know how to maneuver and using their current business models to make money because all along the business models have been them being a monopoly, being a behemoth. Now when the average Joe can have a blogger, be a blogger, have a blog, and be quote unquote a journalist like Matt Drudge, is it the Drudge Report? The Drudge Report can actually be on his, or Craigslist can be on their little computer and make millions of dollars, and the other person who has Sony or Warner Brothers are asking themselves, how do I make money like this? What is the going dynamics? Let me buy this company. It's a startup software company. Maybe they can actually turn the corner for me. But so it's a situation whereby those who have ingenuity, the perseverance, and still determination can make it more now than ever because they have actually synergistically put together their own power. This is what I'm talking about. So with all 13 years of my traversing and being in trench warfare, trying to understand how does one succeed in contemporary society, it's all about building your own power. Sounds simplistic, sound like, oh, that's not mind-boggling, that's not profound. But really, it's not just a concept of the hands, it's a concept of the mind. You have to really believe in your own power. Believe that you have the wherewithal to take something with nothing but your own imagination and manifest something based on something that's needed in society. And that's the important part. Just because you built it, again, doesn't mean it's going to actually be successful. Just having a passion for something doesn't mean you're going to be successful. You really got to intertwine that passion, that still determination, that value that you see you can build and fill a void somewhere in the marketplace. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That was a key for me, a turning point. And since I've uncovered this, I determined that if I can be the guru of charismatic thinking, charismatic leadership, and the theory behind charisma, if I do that the rest of my life, it makes no difference what else I do. I found my passion. Leadership is important. You should have a generic concept of what it is that you are moving towards or the ideas that you want to put forth. But when you talk about leadership, and I talk about charismatic leadership, I'm talking about a different dynamic and a different style of leading based on sheer personality and philosophy that's contrary to the mainstream of thinking. So start off with an idea of generalities, find out your basic interest. What things get you up in the morning? What things you always ponder? What things that you have as an interest since you were a child? Because sometimes we forget as we get older. We forget that, you know what, I really did like that as a child. How did I forget that? I did think about when I was a child, I want to grow up and be that thing. So tie that interest from childhood to where you are now in a generic sense and then taper it down as time goes on incrementally, and then that becomes your passion, and that's where you need to focus all your attention in. That is what I found to be the realm by which one becomes successful. It's not going to be somebody giving you necessarily a lottery ticket that wins, or a person anoints you saying, I see something great inside you, and therefore here it is. It's going to be you saying, I have something I want to get to the world, that I have to do it, and only I can do it, and I have to use the mediums that's available to now that to manifest that thing to bring to bear into fruition my success. That is what I believe is the realm of success today, and how you maneuver and transform yourself to a have not. Excuse me, a have not to a have. I get it.